Now that we've established this kind of first chapter of falling down the rabbit hole, kind of understanding the journey that you're on a little bit and getting a hint of what's to come, once players have crossed that threshold, they are shocked by what they're entering into.
Episode 2 takes place on an alien world, essentially on a fantasy world. It's completely different. It's completely unlike Earth.
Heart of the Emberstone is very much a fantasy kind of experience, but it's got those weird little 80s underpinnings of sci-fi. So Indiana Jones is kind of a good example where it's like this action adventure that turns into this kind of mystical fantasy thing by the end of it. Raiders of the Lost Ark, for example.
Ember is largely influenced by 80s fantasy movies, specifically The Dark Crystal.
When you start going through the catalog of 80s movies and thinking of media from that perspective, the things that we personally cherish at the studio, we're taking a lot of cues from those old movies in pushing that edge from something very normal to something more fantastical or sci-fi based.
When the player gets to Ember, that's when they start to understand the mystery of the Starseed, what its function is, what your part is playing within the story of the Starseed.
Ember is a world that's in the autumn of its life, is how I've been describing it. It's kind of past its prime. The civilization has kind of died off. And when you get here, part of the journey through this world is uncovering what happened. Where did everybody go? What is this planet's story?
Within the world of Ember, you're essentially seeing ghosts of the past of what has happened there, and you must unravel the mystery of what happened to civilization to fix what needs to be fixed so you can escape it.
The world was crafted largely by people who were utilizing magic, and that magic is based from the Starseed.
Creator Tech is the magical, mystical, ancient power that powers your gauntlet that you received in episode 1. The culture and kind of the visual aesthetic of that is kind of driving what this game world looks and feels like. A lot of that was actually inspired from Pumapunku, which is an ancient site here on Earth that they created these stone structures that were so precise that we still don't know how they made them. Once we started kind of feeding on those ideas, that's where a lot of the visual design started to kind of pour out. And we just kind of took that to its logical 80s conclusion, which is that thing that we can't explain is actually derived from an ancient, very advanced race.
So what we're trying to do with episode 2 is show players that this world is huge, that this is a big place. But at the same time, we want to retain what really works in VR, which is small, intimate spaces.
Everything that we put into the environment should have some kind of interactivity, some kind of feedback. Some of the interesting things, like the WizGog behind me, they're kind of this world's version of seagulls in a way, and they're a pest. They just kind of float around, they're dumpy, dumb gas bags. They get in your way and they clog up the gears and the works, and they're a pest and nuisance. And so you have some interesting ways of dealing with those creatures.
Skill matters on the macro and the micro. You need to be able to walk up to something and pick it up, and it needs to feel right in your hand. At the same time, in episode 2, we will be taking the player through larger spaces as well to really try to sell the sense of the scale of this world.
I think one of the things that sets Heart of the Emberstone apart is that we've designed a kind of an open world game flow in VR. It might be the first time in VR that anybody's attacked it from this kind of perspective. You're kind of circling around 3 primary locations with some little sub-locations around it. But these locations kind of unfold in a way that's unexpected.
The player's going to be digging through this planet's history, picking up bits of the narrative, trying to unlock the story of what happened here and why this world is in the sort of desolate state that it is in now.
The story itself is kind of a puzzle. The environments are a puzzle. Everything about game flow is a puzzle. But if we've done our job correctly, you won't feel like it's a puzzle. You'll feel like you're a great adventurer and you're making amazing discoveries.
We're in a more fantastical environment. We're in space, we're on this new planet with an entirely new civilization and a new kind of technology to play around with.
You know, this is an alien world, so everything that you discover or find is something that you've never seen before. It's a completely different game feel than episode 1.
And we're hoping that you'll feel like you've traveled to a brand new place you've never seen before in episode 2.
I have a great affinity for The Dark Crystal, just as much as I have a great affinity for Labyrinth. And both of those movies are cheesy in their own ways, but they're brilliant in many other ways. And I guess as a creative design goal, I just want users to feel like they stepped into that type of experience, that type of movie, that type of the type of place where you really have no idea what's around the corner, both in terms of what you're exploring and the things that you'll stumble across while you're exploring creatures, environments. When I make comparisons to 2D space or looking at something on a movie theater screen or your computer screen, to me, we've never had this ability before, and that's what VR gives us.